We all know the story, don't we? We've seen the haunting images 1,000 times. The solitary polar bear on a dwindling shard of ice, the colossal glaciers weeping into the sea. The Arctic, that great white expanse at the top of our world, is melting. It's a headline we've grown almost numb to. But have you ever truly paused to think beyond the immediate tragedy? Have you ever dared to ask what comes after? When the last of the permanent ice finally gives way, what world will be born from the waters beneath? What new, strange, and perhaps terrifying future will awaken in the ocean at the roof of the world? This isn't just about warmer weather or rising sea levels. We are witnessing the end of an entire geological epoch. For nearly 3 million years, since the dawn of our own human ancestors, the Arctic Ocean has been held captive by a permanent crown of ice. Imagine that, an entire ocean, larger than Europe, locked away in a state of suspended animation. It's a silent, frozen world that has persisted through ice ages and warm spells, a constant in our planet's chaotic history. Now, that constant is breaking. We are about to open a door to a world that has been sealed for longer than our species has existed. What could possibly have been waiting in the darkness beneath? As the brilliant white ice disappears, it's replaced by the dark, hungry blue of the open ocean. This triggers a frightening feedback loop. Where the ice once acted as a giant planetary mirror, reflecting the sun's heat back into space, the dark water now acts like a sponge, absorbing it. Every square meter of newly exposed ocean soaks up more solar energy, which in turn melts more ice, which exposes more ocean. The process begins to feed itself, accelerating beyond our control. The planet's air conditioner is not just breaking down. It's turning into a heater. The Great Thaw isn't a gentle process. It's a runaway chain reaction, and we've already lit the fuse. The consequences are more than just thermal. For millennia, the ice has acted as a lid, calming the ocean beneath it, suppressing waves and muffling the fury of polar storms. As that lid vanishes, the Arctic Ocean will awaken into a state of chaotic energy it hasn't known in millions of years. Imagine monstrous waves, hundreds of miles from any shore, churning waters that have been placid for eons. The wind, now unleashed upon the surface, will whip the ocean into a frenzy, mixing layers of water that have been separate for generations. Ancient currents will shift, and new ones will be born. The quiet, predictable rhythm of the frozen north is over. It's being replaced by the roar of a wild, untamed ocean. This new, energetic world spells doom for the old guard. The creatures of the Arctic are masterpieces of evolution, exquisitely adapted to a life defined by ice. The polar bear, whose entire hunting strategy depends on a solid platform from which to ambush seals. The ringed seal itself, which carves out layers in the snow-covered ice to raise its pups. Even the humble walrus, which relies on floating ice floes as a place to rest between foraging dives. Their world is not just shrinking. It's dissolving from beneath their feet, their paws, their flippers. We are not just watching an ecosystem change. We are witnesses to the final, tragic act for some of the most iconic animals on Earth. So the stage is being cleared. A mass extinction event is wiping the slate clean, and the physical rules of the environment are being rewritten in real time. An entire ocean, once a frozen desert, is about to become the single largest, most extreme evolutionary laboratory on the planet. Nature, as they say, abhors a vacuum. This vast, warming, churning, and newly empty expanse will not stay empty for long. Something is coming. Something new will rise to fill the void. The only question is, what will it be? So the ice is gone. The great planetary mirror has been shattered, leaving behind a dark, churning ocean. A blank canvas, just as we said. But nature is the most impatient artist in the universe. It doesn't wait for inspiration. And in the new Arctic, its first act of creation will be a spectacle of life so extreme, it borders on the monstrous. With the ice cap gone forever, the Arctic Ocean will be bathed in something it has only ever known in brief, fleeting summers. Uninterrupted, year-round sunlight. What do you think happens when you add constant light to a sea rich in nutrients stirred up from the depths? You get a bloom. But this won't be any ordinary bloom. This will be the Great Arctic Bloom, a planet-scale explosion of phytoplankton, the microscopic floating algae that form the foundation of all life in the sea. Imagine it. For months on end, under a sun that never sets, these tiny life forms will reproduce in a feverish, unchecked frenzy. The waters won't just be teeming with life. They will become life itself. The ocean's color will transform from a familiar blue to a shocking, vibrant, and deeply unnatural green. An emerald abyss stretching from Siberia to Canada, from Greenland to Alaska. It would be the single largest biological event on the planet, visible from space as a lurid green stain spreading across the top of the world. On the surface, it might even look beautiful in a terrifying alien way. A symbol of nature's resilience, perhaps? But this isn't a gentle rebirth. This is a system spiraling out of control. The sheer density of the algae will choke the water, turning the surface of the ocean into a thick, shimmering soup. It's less like a healthy ecosystem and more like a planetary infection, a fever dream of photosynthesis. This emerald tide will be the first pillar of the new Arctic food web, a feast of unimaginable proportions, and it will attract the first colonists of this new world. Small fish and krill, swarming in numbers we can scarcely comprehend to graze on this endless green pasture. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. What happens to all that life? Phytoplankton have incredibly short lifespans, sometimes living for only a single day. In this frenzied, supercharged environment, life and death will occur on an epic scale. Trillions upon trillions of these microscopic organisms will die every single second. And when they die, they sink. Scientists have a delicate, almost poetic name for this process: marine snow, a gentle flurry of dead algae, fish waste, and other organic debris drifting down from the sunlit world above, providing a crucial source of food for the creatures of the deep. But what's coming to the Arctic isn't a gentle flurry. It will be a blizzard of death, a relentless, suffocating avalanche of organic matter raining down into the abyss, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The deep, dark waters of the Arctic basin will be buried under a constant deluge of decay. This isn't food. This is a flood. The sheer volume of sinking rot will be more than the deep ocean can possibly handle. As this blizzard descends, bacteria will go to work, decomposing the organic matter in a feeding frenzy of their own. But this decomposition comes at a terrible cost. Consumes oxygen, and there is simply not enough oxygen to go around. The bacteria, in their frantic effort to break down the endless rain of death, will strip the deep water bare of its dissolved oxygen. They will create a vast, permanent zone of anoxia, an environment utterly hostile to most forms of life we know. The deep Arctic Ocean will become a suffocating, oxygen-starved wasteland, a world of black water and toxic sludge. The vibrant, emerald world of life on the surface will be creating a world of death directly beneath it. So we're left with a chilling paradox. A heaven of light and life, built directly on top of a hell of darkness and decay. What kind of thing, what kind of life, could possibly make its home in that suffocating darkness? So there we have it. A sun-drenched heaven on the surface, and directly beneath it, a suffocating hell of darkness and decay. An abyss choked with the dead, starved of oxygen, and crushed under unimaginable pressure. Logic tells us that nothing should live here. Our understanding of biology screams that this is a dead end, a wasteland. But life, especially in the deep ocean, has a talent for thriving where it has no right to. On Earth, the most extreme environments are often home to the most bizarre and resilient forms of life. And the bottom of the new Arctic Ocean will be no exception. In the utter blackness, something is stirring. Meet the first inhabitants of this new world. We can call them the sludge crawlers, descendants, perhaps, of the humble sea cucumber, but warped by this new reality of endless food. Forget the small, slow creatures you might know. Picture instead something enormous, ghostly white, and utterly boneless, growing to the size of a small car. They wouldn't just be scavengers. They would be grazers. Vast, slow-moving herds of them, plowing through the meters-thick sludge on the seafloor. their muscular bodies processing the organic muck in a continuous, silent feast. They are the great earth movers of the new abyss, the first titans of this world of rot. Can you imagine the sight? A silent stampede in slow motion. Dozens of these pale, colossal slugs moving as one across the abyssal plain, leaving cleared pathways in the suffocating ooze. No eyes, no discernible features, just pure, relentless function. This isn't just an animal. It's a living engine of consumption, a key part of a new planetary cycle. But why would they move in herds? In a world without obvious predators, what is the purpose of a group? Perhaps it is a strategy to churn the seabed more efficiently, or maybe, just maybe, it's for protection. A sign that even down here, in the crushing dark, they are not entirely alone. What could possibly hunt a monster like that? Elsewhere, another form of life takes root. Let's call them the corpse lilies. They are not plants, but vast, sessile animal colonies. Like sea anemones redesigned by a horror artist. They anchor themselves in the deepest, most nutrient-rich sludge, growing into intricate, branching structures that resemble skeletal trees. At the tip of each delicate branch hangs a lure, a single point of cold, blue-green bioluminescence, pulsing in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. From a distance, they would form entire forests of ghostly light, silent, shimmering cities in the absolute darkness. An alien orchard grown on a soil of death. These eerie lights are not for decoration. They are a trap. The faint, rhythmic glow attracts smaller, hardier scavengers, strange crustaceans and wriggling worms that can tolerate the low-oxygen environment. When one gets too close, the branch snaps shut, and the unfortunate creature is slowly digested by the colony. The sludge crawlers, with their primitive senses, might steer clear of these glowing forests, creating strange, winding pathways around them. An entire ecosystem is being born, with its own grazers, its own stationary predators, and its own geography of light and shadow, all operating in total silence under miles of water. This is the foundation, a world built not on sunlight, but on the leftovers of a feast happening miles above. It is profoundly alien, a kingdom of monsters thriving on decay. But all of this life, from the smallest worm to the largest sludge crawler, represents an incredible concentration of energy. A banquet laid out on the table at the bottom of the world. And such a massive, untapped source of food cannot go unnoticed forever. The scent of this new bounty is starting to drift upwards, out of the anoxic dead zones and into the twilight world above. The table is set, and the first uninvited guests are beginning to descend. While a world of silent horrors takes root in the deep, a very different kind of drama is playing out in the sunlit waters above. The old kingdom has fallen. The polar bear, the undisputed king of the sea ice, is gone. Its primary prey, the seals that depended on that same ice, have vanished alongside it. An entire dynasty that ruled the top of the food chain for millennia has been wiped from existence. But the throne of the apex predator never stays empty for long. Nature demands a ruler. And in the chaotic, newly opened waters of the Arctic, a violent and desperate war of succession is about to begin. The most obvious claimant to the throne is the orca, the killer whale. They are already the master strategists of the global ocean, and with the ice gone, nothing holds them back from dominating the North year-round. We can imagine them forming immense superpods, dozens, maybe hundreds strong, sweeping through the new Arctic. They would be a force of nature, their coordinated, brutal intelligence creating a reign of terror for everything from massive schools of fish to the whales migrating through these new sea routes. They are loud, powerful, and terrifyingly efficient. They seem like the logical choice for the new kings. But what if the loudest threat isn't the deadliest one? Because something else is happening. Something quieter. The first signs are just whispers. Strange anomalies that don't quite add up. Scientific survey vessels tracking the colossal blooms of krill and fish suddenly report entire swarms vanishing from sonar in the blink of an eye. Not scattering, not fleeing. Just gone. Migrating bowhead whales are being photographed with strange, clean-cut, arcing wounds on their massive flanks, wounds that don't match the raking tooth marks of an orca pod. They look more like they were carved by a single giant blade. A new kind of fear begins to ripple through the ecosystem. This isn't the chaotic, splashing violence of a pack hunt. This is the work of a ghost, a predator whose presence is only known by the sudden, chilling absence it leaves behind. There are no warning calls picked up by hydrophones, no thrashing on the surface, just a perfect, clinical, and terrifyingly silent execution. In the new Arctic, the greatest danger doesn't announce its arrival. It simply erases you from existence. So if it's not the Orcus, then what is it? What could possibly hunt with such impossible stealth? The answer has been here the entire time, lurking in the shadows of our imagination, a creature of the cold, dark deep. The culprit is a descendant of one of the planet's oldest and most mysterious vertebrates, the Greenland shark. For centuries, its ancestor was a living fossil, a slow, nearly blind scavenger that could live for more than 500 years in the crushing, near-freezing abyss. It was the ancient, slumbering janitor of the seafloor. But this new, energetic, and prey-rich Arctic has been a jolt of evolutionary lightning. The slow, patient path of survival is over. It's time to hunt. This is not the sluggish beast of old. This is a new species, forged in the crucible of rapid change. Let's call it the revenant shark. It has retained its ancestors' ghostly silence, but has honed its body into a weapon. It's more streamlined, more muscular, built for terrifying bursts of ambush speed. Its skin has lost its murky color, becoming a stark, ghostly white, perfect camouflage for stalking prey from below against the bright, plankton-filled surface. Its once clouded eyes are now large, black, and hypersensitive, designed to hunt in the perpetual twilight of the new Arctic. It is a silent, pale phantom, a ghost that has risen from the abyss to claim the surface. The loud, boisterous Orcus might think they rule this new ocean, but the real king moves without a sound. We have established a world of scavengers in the abyss and a silent apex predator ruling the surface. It seems like the major players of the new Arctic have been introduced, but we have overlooked one critical factor. That relentless blizzard of death, the rain of organic matter falling for centuries, isn't just a source of food. It's also heavy. We're talking about billions of tons of dead material accumulating on the seafloor, creating a layer of sludge kilometers thick. All of that weight adds pressure, squeezing down on the thin crust of the Arctic basin. The planet's geology is beginning to buckle under the strain. And in the deepest, most compressed trenches, something new and terrifying is being born from the fire below. We've seen hydrothermal vents before. We call them black smokers, geysers on the ocean floor spewing superheated, mineral-rich water. They create strange oases of life in the abyss. But these new vents are different. The intense pressure has forced the organic ooze deep into the fissures of the Earth's crust, where it's being cooked at extreme temperatures and pressures. What's being blasted back out isn't just hot water. It's a chemical nightmare, a superheated slurry of methane, hydrogen sulfide, and other compounds so toxic they would sterilize any normal ecosystem. These aren't black smokers. These are poison geysers. This should be a zone of absolute death, a place even more hostile than the oxygen-starved plains around it. And yet, life finds a way. Here, in this toxic cauldron, a new kind of evolution ignites. It's powered by chemosynthesis, the process of creating energy from chemical reactions instead of sunlight. The foundation of this world is made of vast, shimmering mats of bacteria. They don't just consume the poison, they revel in it. They are the grass, the trees, and the soil of this alien landscape, forming pulsating, iridescent fields that shift in color from oily purple to sickly green as they metabolize the chemical soup. This isn't just an oasis. It's a bustling metropolis built on poison, and it has inhabitants. Crawling across the bacterial mats are creatures that defy biology as we know it. Imagine worms the length of your arm with no skin, no protective layer, just a writhing bundle of what looks like raw nerves. Their bodies are a glistening, translucent network of tubes, directly processing the hydrogen sulfide. They don't just resist the poison, it is their very sustenance. These sulfur worms are not just surviving here. They are the first animals to have evolved to breathe and eat poison. Their existence is a masterclass in body horror, a testament to life's grotesque creativity. Of course, where there is prey, a predator will evolve to hunt it. Stalking the fields of sulfur worms is a creature of pure nightmare. A fish, perhaps a descendant of the eelpout, that has done away with sight entirely. Its body is pale, gelatinous, and utterly featureless, save for rows of deep, dark pits that line its flanks. It doesn't see its prey. It doesn't hear its prey. Feels it. These pits are incredibly advanced electroreceptors, capable of detecting the faint bioelectric field generated by the nerve impulses of the worms. It is a predator that hunts not by sight or sound, but by sensing the very thoughts and movements of its victims. Before the worm can even twitch, the eyeless hunter strikes from the toxic gloom. Think about what we've just described. A completely self-contained ecosystem, thriving in total darkness, powered by a chemical fire from the planet's core, and populated by creatures that are biologically alien. A world of poison eaters and neurological hunters. It's a perfect, hermetically sealed bubble of horrors, locked away at the bottom of the world. Feels safe, doesn't it? A curiosity and evolutionary sideshow that has no bearing on the world above. But that assumes it will stay sealed forever. What happens if the geology that created this world shifts again? What happens when a current finally breaks through, providing an escape route? The most terrifying thought isn't that this world of monsters exists, but that it might be about to meet ours. So here we are. We have journeyed through the future of the Arctic and discovered 3 new worlds, layered on top of each other like a nightmare wedding cake. At the top, a vibrant, sun-drenched world of endless blooms, ruled by a silent, ghostly shark. In the middle, a crushing, oxygen-starved abyss where colossal slugs graze on the dead. And at the very bottom, a toxic volcanic hellscape, a self-contained bubble of life that eats poison to survive. 3 distinct kingdoms, each more alien than the last, all born from our world's warming fever. It's easy to look at them as curiosities, isolated evolutionary experiments locked away at the top of the globe. But we're forgetting the most important change of all. For 3 million years, the polar ice cap wasn't just a feature. It was a wall. A colossal barrier of frozen water separating the ecosystems of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Now that wall is gone. Not just for a few weeks in the summer, but permanently. The Arctic Ocean is no longer a frozen cul-de-sac. It is now a superhighway. A warm, open, and permanent channel connecting the 2 largest oceans on Earth. And traffic is about to pick up. At first, it will be the invasions we can predict. Crabs from the Bering Sea crawling into the North Atlantic, species of Pacific salmon competing with their Atlantic cousins. This alone will trigger ecological chaos on a scale we've never seen before. But the real terror isn't what's coming in. It's what's coming out. We've just spent time exploring the strange new life forms that have evolved in the unique pressure cooker of the new Arctic. What makes us so sure they're going to stay there? Take our new apex predator, the revenant shark. It's a master of its environment, a perfect killer for the bright, bloom-choked Arctic Sea. But it's also an opportunist. As the ocean currents shift and warm, what's to stop it from following a stream of prey south, out of the Arctic Circle and into the North Atlantic? Imagine this creature, this pale, silent ghost, arriving in an ecosystem that has never known a predator like it. The seals, the dolphins, the great whales of the Atlantic. Their survival strategies are built around escaping the jaws of Orcus or the lunges of a great white. They have no defense against a hunter that is invisible, that makes no sound, that simply appears from the bright haze below and erases them. The revenant shark wouldn't just be an invasive species. It would be a plague, a phantom carving its way through an ocean that doesn't even know it's being hunted. It would be a monster of our own making, let loose upon the world. And if a giant shark seems too cinematic, consider a horror that is far more subtle and far more catastrophic. Remember the great Arctic bloom? That planet-scale explosion of phytoplankton? It is dominated by a few hyper-aggressive species of algae, perfectly adapted to the new conditions. Now, imagine one of those species, a toxic one, gets caught in the newly re-energized Gulf Stream. It escapes the Arctic. It reaches the warmer, nutrient-rich coastal waters of North America and Europe. It would find a world ripe for conquest. We would witness a global pandemic not of a virus, but of algae. The emerald tides would devastate global fishing industries, create coast-to-coast dead zones, and release unknown toxins into the air we breathe. It would be a silent, green plague, creeping across the planet from the wound we opened at the pole. In the end, the melting of the Arctic ice is not a story about the Arctic. It's a story about us. We were the ones who knocked on the door of this frozen, forbidden world. We were the ones who broke it down just to see what was inside. We set in motion the evolution of a new world in the north. Now its children are coming home.